Accurate medieval maps, digital accuracy. When mystery researchers hear about that, most of them would associate it with some aliens who visited us many thousands of years ago and made these maps, and the medieval cartographers just copied them. However, there is a small details. The way the continents are depicted on many of these maps is in their modern shape. That means that all these images taken as if by satellite were actually very recent, just within the couple of thousand years, because if they were very ancient, then the continents would look much different, because much more of the land mass would be above water, for example, like here. That means that not all of the ancient knowledge was lost forever, but it was still available within the very recent historic times. The good news is that the knowledge, the way it was given by the survivors to us, is not lost completely. There are still authentic old books that have not been edited and contain their original teachings the way they gave them to us. The caste of the Brahmins or priests in India have been memorizing and chanting the sacred Vedic literature since centuries, if not thousands of years. They are still very well aware how important it is to keep the knowledge and the ancient text unchanged, and the number of copies of these sacred books is so great that it was impossible to forge them, to edit them like in Europe. It is not by chance that people from all over the world turn to India for spiritual knowledge. Those who are truly sincere seekers can feel it with their heart that the knowledge from India is a much more pure and reliable source. These are people from Europe chanting the original ancient Vedic texts.
Hari Narayana Hari
And these are Muslim people chanting the ancient texts. They also feel that they are special.
Bhajo Narayana Hari.
Both official history and the ancient texts themselves agree that this knowledge has been brought to India by tall white people who came from the north, and these people survived after a great cataclysm destroyed their civilization. Initially, they lived in a place called Mount Meru. The way Mount Meru is described in the ancient Vedic texts corresponds exactly to the description of what is commonly known as Hyperborea. Claudius Ptolemy is one of the most respected ancient writers, even within the Scaliger version of history. Although, for reasons that we mentioned earlier, his works have survived in a greatly edited and distorted state till nowadays, still we find an amazing information about the peoples of Hyperborea in his work. He shares his sincere narration, telling us how he had heard from other people how the Hyperboreans can even fly in the sky without any mechanical vehicle, but he never believed it because it was just too unbelievable. And yet he shares his observation that one day he saw a Hyperborean flying, and he saw it with his own eyes. Needless to say, his account is absolutely dismissed by the Scaliger followers, and they say this is just a pure fantasy and he didn't know what is he talking about. The ability of the residents of Meru or Hyperborea to fly is also recorded on numerous occasions in the Vedic literature, and actually Tibetan monks still have a great number of records of witnesses who could see people who had this mystic power of flight, even just a few short 100 years ago, at the time when Tibet was not devoured by the modern civilization. Flying was possible not only with mystic powers but also with vimans. These are machines, devices, that are very well described in the Vedic literature in Vimana Shastra. There is a detailed description of few models of vimans, how they're being manufactured and how are they to be maintained. In modern times, the Vimana Shastra was studied by Hitler and his team, and plenty of witnesses nowadays give testimony that he made working models of the Viman. There are also a lot of pictures, original photos on internet showing that that was indeed the case, and even some video footage. Branches of science are also described in the Vedic literature with amazing accuracy, for example like astrology and astronomy. The so-called modern astronomy till nowadays continues to rediscover what is already there in the old books. After every new astronomy discovery, the scientists somewhere in some article will mention, oh, and amazingly enough, in ancient India they knew about it from a magical source already. Well, this magical source are the survivors that scattered amongst various wild tribes and taught them knowledge of technology and mostly knowledge of the mysteries of the human race, the human being, which is an amazing mystical being with abilities that we call magical. It is not that those abilities are really magical, it is we in our current state of affairs that we are so insensitive to subtle energy that for us such things appear to be absolutely beyond our understanding, and we label them as magical. Otherwise they are absolutely natural for humans. I would like to clarify something here. I do not claim that these survivors were the only bringers of the knowledge to these primitive tribes. In many cases, and I think actually India is one of them, they already had knowledge from before. I mean spiritual knowledge. Even before the arrival of the so-called Aryans, meaning civilized or wise. There were people in the forest who were called fratis, and they were rishis, they were sages, they were also keeper of the very old Sanatana Dharma. This Sanatana Dharma is not some sort of a religion as we call it Hinduism today. Sanatana Dharma means the eternal work of the human being, the work that it has been created for, and that work is to learn how to create one's reality with one's thoughts and intentions. Although all branches of science were given in the Vedic literature, still the message of the survivors, the main message was that the spiritual knowledge is the most important of all.
Vamos todos festejar.